Family is supposed to be a source of safety, but in my case it's always been complicated. I'm the older sister by 4 years, and throughout our lives, I found myself acting more like a parent to my younger sister, Jenna, than an equal. From childhood, she had a flair for dramatics, always hungry for attention and laughs, even if it came at someone else's expense. While I eventually outgrew the immaturity that comes with being a teenager, Jenna never truly did. She thrived on pranks, teasing, and pushing buttons, never thinking through the impact of her actions. What others found amusing, I often found thoughtless or cruel. Still, family bonds are hard to sever. I tried to maintain a relationship with Jenna as we grew into adulthood, especially because I believed family should be there for one another during difficult times. And difficult times I've had plenty of. When my daughter Lily was born with a physical disability that limited her mobility, my entire world shifted. She was, and still is, my heart, my reason for fighting every day. Raising a disabled child isn't easy. It comes with endless doctor visits, therapy appointments, stares from strangers, and a constant battle for accessibility. But it also comes with joy, resilience, and moments of profound beauty that many people overlook. From the moment Jenna first met Lily, I could sense a disconnect. While she smiled and cooed like everyone else, there was an undercurrent of discomfort, as if she didn't quite know how to interact with a child who wasn't typical. That discomfort slowly morphed into something worse: carelessness disguised as humor. At family gatherings, Jenna would sometimes imitate the way Lily struggled with fine motor skills, laughing at her own impressions as though they were part of some harmless comedy routine. She would say things like, "Relax, it's just a joke." When I pulled her aside to tell her it wasn't okay, I thought maybe, over time, she would learn. I thought seeing Lily's bright spirit and determination would change Jenna's perspective. But instead, her immaturity dug in deeper. Her so-called pranks started small, hiding Lily's favorite toy, pretending not to hear her when she asked for help, or snapping pictures when Lily stumbled with her walker and sharing them in the family group chat with laughing emojis. Each time, my heart clenched. I wanted to scream, but when I confronted Jenna, she always brushed it off. "You're too sensitive," she'd say. "You baby her too much. She's tougher than you think." Other family members, unfortunately, were complicit. My parents, weary of conflict, would tell me to let it go, claiming Jenna was just kidding and I should choose my battles. To them, laughter was a shield against life's hardships. But to me, it was cruelty thinly veiled as entertainment. What they didn't see, or chose not to see, was the way Lily's eyes would dim when her aunt made her the punchline. They didn't hear her whisper at night, "Why doesn't Aunt Jenna like me?" They didn't understand the damage these jokes inflicted on a child who already fought every day to feel included and capable for a long time. I swallowed my anger, convincing myself that I could monitor the situation, intervene when necessary, and shield my daughter from the worst of Jenna's antics. But deep down, I knew the truth. Jenna had no boundaries. She thrived on reactions, and the more I tried to reason with her, the more she seemed to push the line. What terrified me most was the growing realization that one day, her prank wouldn't just be unkind, it would be dangerous, and as it turned out, I was right, looking back. It's almost impossible to pinpoint when my relationship with Jenna started to fracture beyond repair. Perhaps it was gradual, the slow erosion of trust as her antics grew from childhood mischief into adult recklessness. When we were kids, I tolerated it. I was the older sister who always had to clean up after her messes. She once dyed the neighbor's cat blue for fun, and I was the one who had to help scrub it clean and apologize. She would prank call teachers, hide my homework, and pull stunts that left me grounded instead of her. Even then, she had a way of charming people into believing her intentions were harmless, but as adults, the stakes were higher and the consequences far more severe. Unlike me, who became more serious and focused when Lily was born, Jenna never outgrew her need for attention. Her jokes always seemed to come at someone else's expense. Friends, boyfriends, even co-workers, she had alienated plenty of people with her humor. But when her target shifted to my daughter, the rift between us widened into a chasm. At first, it seemed like playful teasing, something I thought I could address with a conversation. But the truth is, Jenna never took anything seriously. I remember one Thanksgiving when Lily was struggling to cut her turkey with a fork and knife. Her fine motor skills made tasks like that challenging. Instead of quietly helping, Jenna laughed out loud and grabbed a butter knife to mimic her clumsy movements. "Look at me, I'm Lily," she sang, wobbling her wrist exaggeratedly. The table erupted with awkward laughter, and my parents quickly changed the subject. I could feel my face burning, but when I confronted Jenna afterward, she rolled her eyes. "Don't be so dramatic. It's a joke. She has to learn not to be so sensitive." That became her excuse for everything. Every cruel jab was cloaked in the same defense. It was humor. It was harmless. It was me who couldn't take a joke. And yet, I could see the effect it was having on Lily. My daughter, once bold enough to introduce herself to anyone at the playground, started retreating inward at family gatherings. She became quieter, more hesitant, watching her aunt out of the corner of her eye. Afraid of when the next joke would land on her, I often tried to appeal to Jenna's better side, to remind her of the bond family should share. "She's just a kid," I pleaded once. "She looks up to you. She wants your approval." But Jenna scoffed, as though my words were ridiculous. "You think she looks up to me? Please, you coddle her too much." "I'm just toughening her up." The words stung because they revealed the truth. Jenna didn't see Lily as a child with feelings. She saw her as a prop in her ongoing performance. Even worse was the complicity of others. My parents, who always favored keeping peace over confrontation, told me I was overreacting. "You know how Jenna is," they'd sigh. "Don't make a big deal out of it." To them, the worst thing you could do was upset family harmony. But in protecting Jenna's behavior, they abandoned Lily's dignity. Their indifference left me isolated, like I was the only one who truly saw the harm being done. The more I tried to draw boundaries, the more Jenna pushed them. She seemed almost delighted by my anger, as if provoking me was part of the entertainment. What began as words and mimicking soon escalated into small acts of sabotage, misplacing Lily's walker, hiding her crutches for fun. These were not innocent mistakes. They were deliberate, cruel reminders that Jenna viewed my daughter's challenges as material for her own amusement, and in those moments, watching Lily struggle and shrink under the weight of her aunt's ridicule, I realized something important. My patience was running out. The family's excuses, Jenna's mockery, and my silence, it was a recipe for disaster. The line between a cruel joke and real harm was thinner than anyone wanted to admit, and I feared, with growing certainty, that sooner or later Jenna would cross it. The day it happened started like any other ordinary Saturday. I had agreed to bring Lily over to my parents' house for a family lunch. Jenna was already there when we arrived, lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone, and laughing at something on TikTok. I felt the familiar knot in my stomach tighten, the one that always warned me to stay alert when she was around my daughter. At first, everything seemed fine. Lily settled at the table, excited to tell her grandparents about a new art project she had done at school. For a brief moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, today would pass without incident. But with Jenna, peace never lasted long. I excused myself to the kitchen to help my mother, leaving Lily in the living room with her aunt. When I returned a few minutes later, I found Lily crying, really crying, in a way that shattered me to the core. Her wheelchair, which she depended on for mobility, had been rolled across the room, and Jenna was standing nearby, laughing hysterically, phone in hand as she recorded. "What happened?" I demanded, rushing to Lily's side. Jenna wiped tears of laughter from her eyes. "Relax, it's just a prank." I told her I was going to give her a ride, and I pushed the chair away. She freaked out. It was hilarious. My daughter was trembling, her small hands clutching at me as though I were the only safe anchor in the room. "Mommy, I thought she was going to leave me there," Lily sobbed. It wasn't just a joke. It wasn't harmless. For a child who relied on that chair for her independence, Jenna's actions were terrifying. Without it, Lily was stranded, powerless, at the mercy of someone who had already shown her cruelty time and time again. I could feel the heat of rage rising in my chest. "You think scaring her like that is funny?" I snapped, glaring at my sister. "You recorded her crying? How is this a joke to you?" Jenna, instead of apologizing, shrugged. "Oh, come on. She wasn't in danger. I was right here. It's just a prank video. People love this stuff online. You're making it bigger than it is. Her casual tone made my stomach turn. It wasn't just about the prank anymore. It was about her utter disregard for Lily's humanity. She didn't see my daughter as a child, let alone one with vulnerabilities. She saw her as content for laughs, a punchline for social media entertainment. The worst part? When my parents intervened, they didn't scold Jenna. They tried to calm me down instead. She didn't mean any harm, my father muttered. Don't blow this out of proportion. You know your sister, she jokes too much? That moment broke something inside me. Watching my daughter sob while her aunt giggled, and my parents defended the indefensible, I realized I was the only one standing between Lily and a family that refused to protect her that night. After we got home, Lily clung to me as I tucked her into bed. I don't want to go there anymore, she whispered. I don't want Aunt Jenna to push me again. Her words haunted me. No child should ever fear a family member. No child should feel unsafe in a place that should be filled with love. And no mother should have to explain to her daughter why someone she trusted thought humiliating her was funny. In that moment, I knew the line had been crossed. This wasn't just unkind. This wasn't just reckless. It was abuse plain and simple. And for the first time, I realized that words, boundaries, and pleas weren't enough anymore. If Jenna couldn't understand empathy, then she would have to understand consequences. The hours after Jenna's so-called prank felt like an emotional earthquake. On the surface, the house quieted down after the confrontation, but inside me, something had shifted forever. I had spent years walking on eggshells, trying to protect my daughter from cruelty disguised as humor, and still hoping my sister would eventually learn compassion. But watching Lily sob in terror while Jenna laughed, only to be brushed off by my parents, stripped away whatever fragile patience I had left when we got home that night. The aftershocks of the incident became painfully clear. Lily was unusually quiet during the car ride, her gaze fixed out the window, hands fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. Normally she would chatter about the day, ask for music, or tell me silly jokes. But this time, silence weighed heavy between us. Once I tucked her into bed, she whispered, Mommy, why does Aunt Jenna hate me? That single question tore through me. I tried to reassure her, kissing her forehead and telling her it wasn't hate, it was immaturity, insensitivity, cruelty. But how do you explain to a child why an adult, a family member no less, chooses to target them? How do you undo the damage of being made to feel like a joke in your own family? For the next few days, Lily avoided even talking about Jenna if her name came up. She would shake her head or quickly change the subject. At school, her teacher pulled me aside and gently asked if everything was all right at home. She had noticed Lily was quieter than usual, withdrawn, less confident during group activities. My heart sank. The prank hadn't just been a fleeting moment of embarrassment. It had lodged itself inside her, threatening to undo the self-esteem and resilience we had worked so hard to build. Meanwhile, Jenna's reaction only deepened my fury. She texted me the next day with a laughing emoji, writing, Hope you've cooled off. You were so dramatic yesterday. It was like she hadn't absorbed an ounce of the pain she'd caused. I didn't respond, but the silence between us didn't last long. A few days later, she posted a short, edited clip of the prank on her private social media page, captioned, Lighten up, it's just a joke. #family fun? When I saw it, I felt my blood run cold. My daughter's face tear-streaked, terrified, was out there, reduced to content for my sister's friends to laugh at. The comments made it worse. Some people laughed along, while others wrote things like, That's kind of messed up. But not one person seemed to understand the depth of harm it carried. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I had tolerated Jenna's cruelty for years, hoping to preserve some semblance of family unity, but this crossed into something darker. She had taken my daughter's pain and broadcasted it as entertainment. It wasn't just disrespect anymore, it was exploitation. I called my parents to tell them how serious this was, expecting at least then they would agree. Instead, I was met with the same tired refrain. She didn't mean it. Don't ruin the family over this. Just block her if it bothers you that much. But this wasn't about me. It was about Lily, and I couldn't let my daughter grow up believing her dignity was negotiable, that anyone, even family, could trample on it without consequence. That night, I sat in Lily's room watching her sleep, her small chest rising and falling under the blankets. My anger gave way to clarity. I had begged, reasoned, and drawn boundaries that were ignored. Nothing had worked. Jenna wasn't going to change because we asked her to. She wasn't going to stop until someone forced her to, and in that quiet, dimly lit room, I made a decision. I wasn't just Lily's mother, I was her protector. If my sister wanted to treat this as a joke, then it was time someone showed her it wasn't funny anymore. The next step would not be a warning or a lecture. The next step would be the law. The decision to involve the law wasn't one I made lightly. In fact, it was one of the hardest choices of my life. Family loyalty is a powerful force, and for years I had let it bind me in silence. I told myself that Jenna was immature, that she'd grow out of it, that I could protect Lily by hovering close and intercepting her cruelty. But that illusion shattered the moment I saw my daughter crying while my sister laughed and recorded. I began by saving the evidence. I took screenshots of Jenna's social media post with Lily's face on full display, terrified and humiliated. I saved the comments, the timestamps, the original video she had texted me. I gathered every message where she dismissed my concerns with laughter and emojis. It wasn't just a prank anymore. It was harassment, exploitation, and cruelty documented in black and white. When I walked into the police station, I was nervous. Part of me expected them to brush it off, just as my parents had. I half expected to hear, "It's a family matter, not a crime." But the officer who listened to my story didn't laugh. He leaned forward, serious, asking questions about Lily's condition, about the video, about Jenna's pattern of behavior. When I showed him the evidence, his face hardened. "This isn't harmless," he said plainly. "This is endangerment, and it's also distribution of harmful material involving a minor. Your daughter was exploited. We take that seriously." For the first time, I felt validated. Someone outside the family finally saw what I had been screaming into the void for years. This wasn't a joke. It was abuse. Filing the report set things in motion quickly. Jenna was called in for questioning. She was livid, of course. She blew up my phone with texts. "How could you do this to me? You're ruining my life over a joke. You're insane." When I didn't answer, she escalated. "You'll regret this. Mom and Dad will never forgive you." But those words didn't touch me the way they used to. For once, I wasn't afraid of being painted as the dramatic older sister. I was a mother, and I was protecting my child. The backlash from my family was as fierce as I'd anticipated. My parents called me in tears, begging me to drop the charges. "She's your sister." "Blood is blood," my mother pleaded. My father accused me of airing dirty laundry to outsiders. To them, involving the police was betrayal, worse than anything Jenna had actually done. But I stood firm. I told them the truth. "You may see her as my sister, but right now, she's my daughter's abuser. And I won't let Lily grow up thinking her pain doesn't matter." The law moved at its own pace, but it moved. Jenna was given a formal warning for reckless endangerment, and the video was ordered to be taken down immediately. Because Lily was a minor, the legal system treated the matter more gravely than Jenna expected. She was mandated to attend counseling sessions and warned that any repeat offense could result in criminal charges. A restraining order was even considered, though I stopped short of requesting one for Lily's sake. Not Jenna's. In the aftermath, Jenna's smug confidence evaporated. For once in her life, she wasn't the one laughing. She was shaken, defensive, and if only temporarily silenced. My parents were furious with me. But at least I knew my daughter was safe. When I explained to Lily what had happened in the simplest terms, that her aunt wasn't allowed to hurt her anymore, she looked up at me with wide eyes and said, "You really did that for me?" I hugged her tightly. "Always," I whispered. It was in that moment I knew, no matter the cost, I had done the right thing. Because when it comes to protecting your child, especially one who the world already underestimates, the law is not an overreaction. Sometimes, it's the only shield strong enough to make people like Jenna finally understand that cruelty has Consequences. The weeks after the legal intervention felt like stepping into a different world. For the first time in years, I wasn't living on edge. Every time I brought Lily to a family gathering or answered a call from Jenna, silence, in this case, was peace. Jenna avoided me completely, which was exactly what I wanted. My parents remained cold, their disappointment hanging heavy in every clipped conversation, but I had made peace with that too. I could live without their approval. What I couldn't live with was failing my daughter. Lily began to heal in small, precious ways. She smiled more, laughed louder, and no longer flinched when someone mentioned her aunt's name. One afternoon, she came home from school carrying a crayon drawing. It showed the two of us holding hands, a big heart above our heads. At the top, in shaky letters, she'd written, "My mommy keeps me safe." That picture now hangs on our fridge, a daily reminder of why I did what I did. The fallout within the family was messy, of course. My parents blamed me for breaking the family apart, insisting I had blown things out of proportion. They saw Jenna as the victim of an overreaction, a young woman misunderstood for her sense of humor. But their refusal to see the harm didn't shake me anymore. I had spent too many years trying to earn their validation. Now, my focus was on the one person who truly mattered, Lily. As for Jenna, she never offered a genuine apology. Through the grapevine, I heard her complain to friends about how I had ruined her life over a joke. She was embarrassed, angry, and defensive, but beneath all that, I sensed something new: fear. For once, she had faced consequences she couldn't laugh off or manipulate her way out of. Whether she truly changed or not, I didn't care. What mattered was that she knew there were limits she could not cross again. The truth is, involving the law was more than just holding Jenna accountable. As a statement to Lily, I wanted her to know that her pain mattered, that she deserved respect and dignity, and that her mother would always fight for her no matter who the offender was. I didn't want her growing up internalizing the idea that cruelty was just a joke or that silence was the price of keeping family peace. I wanted her to see, through my actions, that boundaries can and must be enforced. This experience also taught me something about family, something hard, but necessary. Family is not defined by blood alone. Family is the people who protect you, respect you, and lift you up. By that definition, Jenna and even my parents had failed us. And while that realization hurt, it was also freeing. I no longer had to bend myself into knots trying to preserve bonds that were built on neglect and excuses. My family, in the truest sense, was Lily and me and the friends and allies who stood by us. As I sit here now, months later, reflecting on everything that's happened, I feel no regret. The law didn't destroy my family, Jenna's actions did. All I did was finally draw the line. And though it meant losing the illusion of unity, it gave me something much greater, the certainty that my daughter knows she is safe, valued, and fiercely loved. To other parents who may find themselves in similar situations, I say this: don't be afraid to act. Don't let anyone convince you that protecting your child is an overreaction. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is break the silence, even if it means breaking ties. Because no prank, no excuse, and no family loyalty is worth the dignity and safety of your child. And if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't hesitate, not for a second.